Marco was only 12 years old, but life had already forced him to grow up much faster than other children his age. While most kids were getting ready for school, packing their bags, and laughing with friends, Marco was carrying an old guitar that had missing paint and worn strings. The guitar was not just an instrument. It was his only weapon against poverty and his only hope to save his mother. Marco and his mother lived in a tiny one-room house made of rusted metal sheets on the edge of the city. When it rained, water leaked through the roof. When the wind blew, the walls rattled like they might fall apart. But inside that fragile home was something stronger than anything in the world. Love. Marco's mother, Elena, had been sick for many months. Doctors said she needed treatment and medicine that cost more money than they could ever imagine. Elena used to work as a street vendor selling fruit, but after her illness became worse, she could barely stand. The little money they had saved disappeared quickly on hospital visits and medication. Soon they had nothing left. No savings, no job, no family nearby to help. But Marco had something special. He had a voice. Ever since he was a small child, Marco loved to sing. His mother used to tell him that his voice sounded like sunlight after a storm. When Elena became too weak to work, Marco made a decision that would change everything. He would sing in the streets. Every morning, Marco walked through the crowded markets and busy sidewalks with his old guitar. He stood near food stalls, bus stops, and street corners, singing with all his heart. Some people walked past without noticing him. Some people smiled and dropped a few coins. And sometimes, when his voice reached someone's heart, they stopped to listen. Marco didn't care about the heat, the long hours, or the exhaustion. Every peso he collected meant another chance for his mother to receive medicine. Every song was a prayer. One afternoon, while Marco was singing near a busy intersection, a woman stopped in front of him. She was holding a phone and recording him quietly. Marco didn't notice. He closed his eyes and sang a song his mother loved. His voice trembled with emotion, but it was pure, powerful, and filled with pain and hope. People slowly gathered around him. Cars slowed down. Street noise faded behind the sound of his voice. When he finished singing, the small crowd began to clap. Some people even wiped tears from their eyes. The woman who had been recording stepped forward. She asked Marco why he was singing in the streets instead of being in school. Marco hesitated at first, but then he told her the truth. He told her about his sick mother, about the hospital bills, about his dream to save her. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She uploaded the video to the internet later that night. None of them expected what would happen next. Within hours, the video started spreading across social media. People shared it again and again, amazed by the voice of the small boy singing on a dusty street corner. By the next morning, millions of people had watched Marco's performance. Comments flooded the video. People from different countries were asking who he was and how they could help him. But the biggest surprise came a week later. A television talent show contacted the woman who posted the video. They wanted Marco to audition. Not just any show. It was the world-famous talent show where dreams could change overnight. When Marco heard the news, he couldn't believe it. He had never been on a stage before. He had never even left his neighborhood. But more than fear, he felt hope. If he could win, maybe he could finally save his mother. A few weeks later, Marco stepped into a huge theater for the first time in his life. Bright lights shined everywhere. Cameras moved across the stage. The audience filled hundreds of seats. Marco felt very small standing behind the stage curtain, holding his guitar tightly. A producer knelt beside him and asked gently if he was ready. Marco nodded, even though his hands were shaking. When his name was announced, the crowd applauded politely as the small boy walked onto the massive stage. The judges looked at him with curiosity, and one of them was Simon Cowell. Simon leaned forward and asked Marco his name. Marco spoke softly, but clearly. He told them he was 12 years old and from Manila. Simon asked him why he decided to join the show. Marco paused for a moment. The theater became completely silent. Then he told them about his mother. He told them she was very sick. He told them he sang in the streets every day to buy her medicine. And he told them that if he won the competition, the prize money could save her life. The audience gasped. Many people in the crowd were already wiping tears from their eyes. Simon looked at the boy carefully. Then he asked a simple question. What are you going to sing for us today? Marco lifted his old guitar. He said he would sing a song his mother loved. The music began softly. Marco closed his eyes just like he did on the streets.
But this time he wasn't surrounded by traffic and noise. He was standing in front of thousands of people. At first, his voice was gentle and quiet. But within seconds, the entire theater felt something powerful. His voice carried raw emotion that no training could teach. Every note sounded like it came directly from his heart. The audience leaned forward in their seats. The judges stared in disbelief. As the song continued, Marco's voice grew stronger. He sang about love. About pain. About hope. And about never giving up. Halfway through the performance, something incredible happened. The audience began to cry. Some people held their hands over their mouths. Others hugged each other. Even the judges looked emotional. Simon Cowell, known for being one of the toughest judges in the world, sat completely still. He watched Marco with an expression no one expected. Respect. When Marco reached the final chorus, his voice rose higher than ever before. It filled the entire theater with a sound so powerful that the crowd immediately jumped to their feet. The moment he finished singing, the audience exploded into applause. The standing ovation lasted for nearly a full minute. Marco stood there, overwhelmed, holding his guitar as tears formed in his eyes. But the biggest moment had not happened yet. Simon Cowell slowly stood up. He walked over to the golden buzzer. The audience gasped. Marco looked confused. Simon turned toward him and said something the world would never forget. Sometimes a voice is more than just music. Sometimes it is a story, a heart, and a reason to believe in miracles. Then Simon pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down from the ceiling like a storm of shining stars. The audience screamed with excitement. Marco covered his face with his hands, unable to believe what was happening. He had just received the golden buzzer. That moment changed his life forever. Backstage, Marco cried as he called his mother. When Elena answered the phone, Marco